4, 3, 2.
Pryvit.
Bonjour!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Morning Brew, Season 1, Episode 75, a Yeg Music production. I'm your host,
Mhm.
Marisa Gay.
I am your other host, Millie Rouge, from France, from the movie Beauty and the Beast.
And relax, pull up a chair as the dining room proudly presents your breakfast.
Your breakfast tea. We today are gonna do a few things, of course, like we typically do. We are going to do our 3 news topics of the day, as well as our album review. So,
Yes.
quite a funny story
And what?
because our manager, when choosing these albums, he tries to choose albums that are not really well known and artists that are brand new. So he decided, hey, I've never heard of the Chicks. I'm going to pick them. Not knowing that they are formerly
In fact,
known
formerly
as
known as
the
Dixie
Dixie Chicks.
Chicks,
So he was
yes.
like, shoot. I was like,
It's a
well,
great, oh man,
it is
I'm
what it is,
happy
though.
that he suggested this though, because I've been
Mm-hmm.
like meaning to listen to it.
Right?
I first heard the single
Gaslighter?
Gaslighter like months ago, or at least it felt like
I
months
think it
ago.
was
Maybe it
April.
wasn't months ago.
April, or maybe it was released March.
Yeah, I was like, I don't, maybe it was even before April because I was still driving around. April, I wasn't driving around anywhere.
March.
Um, but yeah, I was like on the radio station. They're like, so what do you think of the, I think it was on a country station. They're like, so
Mm-hmm.
what do you think? And people are like, I hate it, bruh. And I was
Of
like,
course
this
they
is
do.
kind of cool. Anyway,
We'll chat
but
about
that's
that later.
we'll chat about that after. But anyway, my brother got a smoker
Ooh,
and
brand
he's
new one,
been like a brand new smoker,
okay,
yeah.
okay, cool.
And he's got like hickory chips in it right now, and it smells so good.
Mm.
And it's like it's just like wafting through the house. So like my whole house smells like beef jerky, and it's amazing,
Yum.
and I love it.
That's such a
And it
a
just
dad purchase though, because I would never
I
think
know
in my life to buy a smoker.
I know, and it's so funny because like I was talking with my old dance instructor, or not
Mm-hmm.
old, but she's young, but she's
Former.
like former. Thank you. That's a
Yeah.
better word. And she's like, yeah, we got a smoker and we smoked everything. And of course, like my brother talked to her too, and he's like, he woke up one day, he's like, I'm gonna get a smoker. And I was like,
That's
okay. And then
so
he made
funny.
ribs yesterday and it was so good.
You're like, I don't regret this at all that you purchased
No.
this.
But right now it's funny because like I'm looking out my window right now and I can like have a couch and then like a giant window to my backyard. So
Yeah.
all I can see is smoke rising from behind the couch. It looks like my house is on fire. It's really
Your
funny.
neighbors are just like, what the heck is
It
going
smells like a
on?
campfire. That's what it smells like. So
Mm,
it's like
it's
I'm
my
camping
favorite
every
smell.
single day and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm a huge fan of the campfire smell, even though it's
Mm.
kind of gross to like that it's a smell, but I love.
I don't think so. I think it's kind of
I
nice.
love. I love.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting to hear. Yeah, my what's new with me? My face is less scared than it was yesterday, which is a bonus.
It was funny. You were like
It's
yesterday and
like,
now you're like,
good morning,
ta-da!
Kanye. Shut the fuck up. That's what I felt like yesterday. I did not want to
Oh
be seen
man.
by the pops. Very famous, very big deal over here. Clearly.
Oh yeah, 100%. You look great.
So, we are going to dive into our news topics for today. To
Yes.
be
So,
honest, I hadn't heard of most of these things happening. So,
me
this might be
neither.
new for you guys too, because, I mean, most of these news things are fairly brand new. So, yes, it makes sense if we don't know every single thing going on in the world at all times. Um,
I'm like John Mulaney where I'm like, I'm lazy by nature, so I wasn't paying attention. That's me.
yeah. Do you like that guy a lot? The John Mulaney
John
guy?
Mulaney?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, because I saw the other day I was online looking at something, and there was
Hmm.
a sticker for him, and I was like, I should just get this for Marissa because I feel like she would like it.
Oh my God,
Put it on her
yes.
laptop or something.
Yes,
But
I've been wanting to get more stickers for my laptop
yeah,
or for my laptop case. But
yeah.
anyway,
Anyhow,
let's dive into our first topic. What is our first topic,
let's.
Millie?
So our first topic is something very scientific, which I will not be able to talk too much about, but I will try my best. Neuralink. So we're going to talk about your boy Elon Musk, who recently birthed a daughter with the strangest name in the entire world. I don't even know how to
Hmm.
pronounce it, but that's all I know
Pronounced
about
Kyle.
it.
I don't
Pronounced
know.
Julia, actually. So
I took a shot in the dark there.
tried my best. Elon Musk is like, what would you consider his
He is a
exact title? A scientist?
he is a supervillain.
Yeah.
He's like one of those.
He's
He's
this
like one of
dude.
those cartoon, like everything you expect a supervillain to
Oh,
be.
sorry,
Elon
Margaret.
Musk is
Sorry,
like,
sorry. Yeah.
um,
He
I
does
mean, like,
everything.
but he's also like does a lot of cool stuff too. I don't really know
Mm-hmm.
much about him. I know that he makes cars, and I know
Mm-hmm.
that he is into technology.
Okay,
That's about
word
all I know.
word from my inner ear monitors here that Elon Musk is not a scientist.
He's not a
Okay,
scientist.
I don't
Okay,
know what the hell
great.
he is. An inventor?
I
Job
don't
title.
know.
Let me look
He's
it
a
up.
person who makes
Let me look it up.
things.
I feel like I
All I
should know
know
this,
is that
but
like the pop culture version of like I know like the meme version of Elon Musk. Like isn't
oh,
he like a
he's
program
just a
developer?
CEO.
Oh,
And well, he's obviously the owner of Tesla, which we have figured that out.
yeah.
So maybe that's just I would classify that under inventor though, but anyhow, doesn't matter. Let's continue. We we know kind
Anyway,
of the direction of what he
if we
does.
say Elon Musk, you generally know what he's about,
Mm-hmm.
kind of.
Yeah.
So we're
So,
going off of like again, I'm gonna say like the John Mulaney joke where it's like somebody like read the actual news or like read about Elon Musk and then they texted everything that they knew about him to me. Anyway,
entrepreneur is probably the best word. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, okay, that's a better
That's
word
a
for it.
thank you for
There we
clarifying.
go. Um, so anyway,
Twins.
Elon Musk, he says that this like new thing called Neuralink
Mm-hmm.
will basically turn your life into a Black Mirror episode and stream
Hell
music directly
yeah.
into your brain,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know how I feel about that. I want to know a little bit more about that. What did you find out about this?
Yeah, so he's working on a brain computer interface that allows people to wear music directly to their brain. Which is like, okay, but earpods are good enough for that, aren't they? Like, I don't need to directly input it into my brain, I would think. Like, I don't mind spending $10 on Spotify. I'm not that cheap, but.
I also don't like, I don't like, why
Yeah, you
is
can
my
listen from
question.
chips, is basically what it is, but that's. I feel like the
That's
start of
basically
a
just,
very terrible Black Mirror episode, like you said.
that sounds like an earworm with extra steps.
Yeah, and it
Like,
just sounds painful. If it, I don't know if it will be painful, but I mean, they're still in the production levels of like thinking about it. But
yeah. I mean, if I'm thinking about the pros and cons of it, pros, you don't have to, like, you don't have actual airwaves hitting your ears.
mm-hmm.
But it makes me wonder, like, how do you hear sounds? Because I know that some people, they have
Yeah.
this thing where they can't actually think thoughts. Like, they can't think a conversation in their brain. Like, they
No
can't think
way.
about
What do
that.
you
They
do
think in,
with
like,
yourself?
I don't know.
That's the only
And
way I
it's crazy. Like
think.
it's like people can't have fully formed conversations in their head, which I do all the time.
Yeah.
Some people can't. They can't even like picture things.
Whoa.
So when I think about streaming music
I
directly
didn't
into
know
your
that.
brain, I would imagine that it would only be for certain kinds of people who are able to form those things.
Maybe.
Or it also makes me wonder how it would change from person to person if it would be
Mm.
different.
Yeah. Well, I read something interesting here that he said, like Elon said that the Neuralink could help people control their hormone levels and use them to their advantage. So, like,
Oh.
your enhanced abilities and reasonings, anxiety relief,
Ah,
etc., which is cool.
that is really cool.
But I'm
The other
still like, eee.
Well, the other thing too, though, is that I know that music, like obviously there's music therapy. I have a couple
Yeah.
friends who are in music therapy, and
Mm-hmm.
there's been studies shown that it helps for people with Alzheimer's. Like the music kind of hits.
Yes.
I'm not technical at all.
Yes.
This is what I read basically, where it said like if music can kind of trigger a certain part of your brain that kind of brings back, or not brings back certain memories, but
Mm-hmm.
can kind of trigger certain things to help you remember, or people with
That would be awesome.
what's that one,
Parkinson's?
Parkinson's, thank
Because I
you.
was literally just reading
um
that. That's why I
yeah,
offered
where
it.
they listen to like a drum beat and it helps them
Yeah.
kind of walk, or anybody with a stutter, they listen to music and then they can speak. Actually, it's really interesting. I have a
It is.
student who has kind of a little bit of a stutter. They are a very
Mm.
anxious kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
They've told me this. I'm not just like speculating. They're like, I'm an
Mm-hmm.
anxious person, I have a stutter.
That's
um
fair.
and she or this student was going through, whenever the student is speaking, they tend to kind of have that a little bit of a stutter, but then when they go to sing, it like it
It's gone.
disappears, and
It's
it's
like
such a
people
cool
with British
thing.
accents. They just disappear. It's crazy. Okay,
I
it's
like
not
that
the
idea
same,
of a
but
stutter being like an accent. That's kind of cool. I like
yeah,
that. It's like a
frame that to
person.
them
Yeah,
if they
I
ever
like
feel
that.
self-conscious.
They
Wife
actually they
material.
never do, but
That's good.
anyway.
Wife
Yeah,
material here on Twitch said, "Hey guys, I'm hiding in the bathroom at work to watch this." Haha. Which I'm like, you are number one fan. You're amazing. Thank you
I
for
love it.
risking your job to watch us. Um,
Appreciate it.
I wanted to mention here because this is similar to what you said. The technology
Mm-hmm.
could be used for people. They're actually going to first use it on people that have Parkinson's, like you said.
Mm.
But its ultimate goal is to help compete with advanced artificial intelligence. But basically, he says it would be like laser eye surgery. So yeah, that's still a strenuous kind of surgery, but it's not
Mm.
so totally out of the normal for people. Like that's a fairly common procedure from what it seems like. Um,
Interesting.
so yeah, I don't know. I think
It's neat.
it's neat.
It's
Yeah,
neat and also scary.
yeah. If it does have the health benefits that it's claiming to want to target, then maybe it'll be great for a
Yeah.
lot of people, like you're mentioning. But I mean, for me, I'm kind of like until I would necessarily need it, or until I really want it, I don't need it. I don't
Yeah.
need a Black Mirror
What you mean you don't
episode.
got a grain? You don't got a grain? Anyway, sorry, that was a really terrible accent.
But I
Anyway, let's
definitely
move on
think for
to
people with disabilities, it could be really cool. That's all I'm
oh,
saying.
100%.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
let's move on to our next
Let's move along.
move along like I know
Yeah,
ya
yeah,
do.
yeah. Okay. iHeart Festival time. Let's
Yes.
chat about it.
Yeah, so iHeartRadio, they actually put on a festival, like a little virtual one,
Not too long ago, right?
not too long ago. Yeah, and it was like all these different people were a part of this festival, which was really, really cool. I don't know if you watched any of it.
I did not.
I think it was hosted by Elton John,
Oh, yeah. Who else is in
that
it?
one. Oh, like lots of people. Bruno
Lady Gaga?
Mars, I think Lady Gaga was part of it
Mm-hmm.
too. Trying to think. I think John Legend was there too.
Mm.
Who else? Sam Smith was a part of it.
Hmm.
Um,
Cool
a
people.
couple of like older acts as well that I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember. But anyway, it was just really cool.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway,
Let's
let's get
chat about
to
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I just kind of looking through my thing here. My computer wasn't so slow. Yeah, iHeartRadio Music Festival is turning 10 this year, and they're celebrating with music's big performances. So
Mm-hmm.
it actually took place as a promo for when they were launching the iHeartRadio Music app, where they had a bunch of big names.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm just looking up here. So 2020 iHeartRadio Music Festival will take place on September 18th and 19th and the 2-day virtual mega concert will feature performances from BTS, Coldplay, Kane Brown, with special guests Khalid, Keith Urban, Migos, Miley Cyrus, Thomas Rhett, Usher,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's hosted by Ryan Seacrest. Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't believe it's hosted by
Oh
Ryan
my
Seacrest. That's
gosh.
so funny.
And they're doing virtual meet and greets.
What?
That's never been done before.
Well, if
Weird.
have you watched Some Good News with John Krasinski because he did that all the time on that show.
Like, sort of. I saw the Office episode and whatnot. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That's really funny. I'm sorry. I don't know why I
Interesting.
can't get over the fact that Ryan Seacrest is hosting. I'm like American Idol. What?
That makes sense, though.
Um
He's quite
oh,
in the
100%. It does
know.
make sense.
Yeah.
I just think it's really funny.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's not a whole lot to talk about with this story, but it's more just revolving around how we've kind of shifted ourselves to virtual concerts and
Mm.
virtual everything in life, and just trying to adapt. And I wonder, do you think that this was necessary to do?
Well, because I'm reading a little bit more about this festival in general and kind of what they're expecting. So it's not just going to be performances, like they're doing the meet
Mm,
and greets as well.
mm-hmm.
But it says in true iHeartRadio music fashion, the virtual mega concert will feature one of a kind collaborations, surprise performances. Artists are going to kind of collaborate and perform together. Fans will also get to see an intimate backstage moments with artists as they share how the pandemic has kind of impacted their lives, their families, given
Yeah.
disruption to their performances. So I think that's kind of a cool thing to see. I
Yeah.
think in general, I'm kind of a nerd that way where I'm like, okay, how did they do that? What happens backstage? What
Yeah.
goes
It's
on
interesting.
like in one of these performances? And like I'm always curious to know. Like I always want to be a fly on the wall in the dressing room,
Mm-hmm.
but not in that way, but just in a way of just like I want to see kind of how they prepare themselves for a performance.
Totally.
Because if I'm thinking about someone like Keith Urban, I'm like, how do you not get nervous to play for that many people? But and then I remember he's Keith Urban,
And
so
he's
I don't
married
know.
to Nicole Kidman, so he's pretty
That's
like
right.
he's pretty. I don't know. I don't think most things for him are normal, if you will. Like,
Yeah,
being a celebrity, nothing's ever really technically normal. But
true. But yeah, I
yeah,
think it's just a cool thing to see some backstage stuff. I love seeing stuff like that.
yeah. So I
It's
wonder
really
if
cool.
it'll be like at a stage and they'll bring the performers there, or if they'll be like, I'm thinking BTS, for example. They're
Uh
not close
oh
to the
yeah,
States unless now
that's
they're situated there, but
oh yeah, I've got it here. It says remote performances for the festival are filmed on stages in they spelled Los Angeles wrong. Los Angeles,
Los
Nashville,
Angeles.
and Nashville, in partnership with T-Mobile in front of a virtual audience that'll include a
Okay.
fan wall of iHeartRadio listeners. Um,
That's
so that's kind of
creepy.
cool. So
Yeah.
they're actually performing on stages, which
Very
is
cool.
neat. So you do kind of get that festival experience, but you just get to sit at home, which honestly, all the introverts are like, woo!
Yes. Yeah. Well, like, I think for me, the best and worst parts about concerts, like, I love the feeding the energy off of other people. I
Hmm.
love seeing the artist, but most of the times, like, depending on where you're sitting, you can barely see the artist. They're like this little ant that kind of moves around. And you're like, oh, that's cool.
True.
And it kind of sounds like most times you're listening to. I'm not saying these people are lip syncing, but it sounds like a CD because it's hard to see the people up close, so it's hard to
Yeah.
differentiate
And the
between that.
closest you can kind of get to them is
Yeah.
like I'm in the nosebleeds.
Or if
Whereas
you're
like with
like
these,
floor seats or whatever.
yeah, whereas like with this, you get to kind of actually see everything up close. But again,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same as being in the same
No.
room as that person. You're like,
Yeah.
wow, I'm in the same room as Taylor
Yeah.
Swift or
Yeah.
whatever.
Which is nuts. Yeah. So
I
I
remember
think, yeah, it's
the
different.
first time my very first festival or not festival concert
Concert?
that I went to was The Offspring,
Ah.
and I remember thinking like it was the first time I've ever gotten starstruck, and I didn't even meet him. It was just like, oh, that's him, and it
They're
was like, "Eh,
here.
they're
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
It's like a weird experience, but
My first
anyway,
concert was Rascal Flats. And I
nice.
was invited like kind of last minute because I think something happened or like someone couldn't go or so this one girl in my junior high stop it, was like, "Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Sure." Like I like them enough, but like they were wearing the one lead singer was wearing jeans with
Uh-huh.
glitter bedazzled flames going up his pant leg.
Oh man, that's so 2005.
Woo! But
I
it
love it.
wasn't. It was like well, I guess it was like 2007 or 8. So I guess it's not too far
Okay,
away
so
from
it's still like before
2005.
2010 is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like that's early 2000s.
But it was cool. Like it was definitely like not my most favorite band, but then I think I went from that to seeing Lady Gaga. So that was like a big transition in
Yeah.
concert experiences, right?
And I feel like with this iHeartRadio Music Festival, like it'll give you a different experience that you probably normally wouldn't get. Like you
Mhm.
probably won't get to see, the camera up here
Mhm.
zooming into their face. So that's kind of gives you a different
Or
experience.
people really are well, maybe they'll show that, but people like around you, like, like there's no
Mhm.
hands in your face or like, so
No one
it's
doing this
yeah. Good
or like
God.
this. And you're like,
You know
put your
what?
phone down. No
Yeah.
one's watching your Snapchat story of the
I
concert.
know. That's what I do.
Tap, 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 tap. Get out of here.
Yeah, I'm like, thank you for showing me the Beyonce concert for free. Now I don't need to go.
But it's always you can hear them going like, when the sunshine will shine. That's Umbrella, but you know what I mean. What's the?
If
I was
I
trying to sing
was a
Halo.
boy.
I was trying to sing Halo, and I ended up singing Umbrella. I can see your halo, and they're like singing along with her, and it's out of
Halo.
key. You
Yeah,
can't even hear Beyonce.
I know.
They're screaming and they're shaking so much you can't even see, and it's like, just stop.
And you know what my opinion is?
What?
When I go to concerts, yes, I take a few photos and a few videos just because it's like
Hmm.
memorabilia. But it's like,
But that's for you.
do I even watch those though? No. Do I even look at those photos ever? No. What's the point of having those photos?
Exactly. I
Like,
think the only concerts I do that is when it's in a smaller venue and I'm close to the band and I'm like with friends
mhm,
and everyone is quiet when we're singing through songs. Like I did that
yeah,
with My Chemical Romance, I did that with Half Moon Run.
yeah,
But anyway, we could keep talking about this. Let's move on to our next
yes.
topic.
Okay.
Next
Our
topic
next topic, if I can find where
is
the topic of venues reopening.
yeah. This is an
Hmm.
interesting one because this affects you as well because you are one of the co-founders of Yeg Music.
Yes.
So
So, you owe me a soda pop. Jinx. Okay. But in all reality, it's kind of hard to pinpoint an exact article, so this will kind of be like from a few different sources, if you will, just
hmm
because yeah, there's it's happening in different places of the world. We've got it happening in Canada, we've got it happening in the States,
hmm
where there are differences in severity. I guess I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but like between the States and Canada, there's a difference in an amount of infections. Um, so it's tough because restaurants have been reopening. Malls are reopened, things like that. So
hmm
now we're slowly getting into that venue world. Um,
Well, and it's like I can see both sides of it. I can see why this should not be happening.
mm-hmm,
I can see like everyone kind of gathering in a giant room and there's people on stage and they're probably behind plexiglass or something like that.
yeah,
I'm just thinking like purely music performance.
right.
I know that venues are like, we need to make money, no performances are happening. What do we
This
do?
is
Kind
what
of
we
thing.
make
And
money
of
off
course,
of.
like musicians and artists are like, well, crap
Yeah.
right now. So like when I look at,
Thank
for
you for the
example, like,
follow, Knight and Slimy Armor. Thank you for following.
oh, thanks. Um, and I look at someone like even as an example here in Edmonton, we had Brett Kissel do that
Mm-hmm.
one concert, the drive-in
Yeah, the
concert,
drive-in.
which was kind of cool. And like I've seen people do outdoor concerts, which I think is great, and it's a good way to perform and kind of give artists a sense of
Mm-hmm.
normalcy, but also kind of allow you to social distance while also enjoying the music.
Right.
But it's one of those things where the other half of it is we're still in the middle of a global pandemic and it seems like
Mm-hmm.
every venue has a different opinion on
How they
what
want to
is,
open or
yeah,
how
like
they
what's right.
feel.
And yeah, like I know, like I'm reading an article here in England, in London, they're
I was
talking
reading the same
about,
thing.
yeah, they're talking about reopening the West End.
Mm-hmm.
And like they have like check marks and X's on the seats of like where you can sit, but like I look at that and I'm like, yes, but also like the actors on stage are singing, they're still being around each other. They're not wearing masks on stage because
Mm-hmm.
unless the musical is about a pandemic, but
Yeah.
so I don't know, like I
I'm not
it's always
sure
hard
how
to
I
say.
feel. Because if yes, you're taking the proper protocols and like, spacing off seats, that's always a great idea. Um,
In theory, right?
yeah, it's kind of tough to be honest. I'm not.
And like I'm not a health expert
Yeah.
or any of the sort.
Oh,
Um
someone said, "Hi, I'm new here." Well, our night and slimy hour said, "Hi, I'm new here. May I have consent to view your stream?"
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think now it should be all good for you. I don't know if you're having troubles viewing the stream. Let us know, but it should be all good from here.
There we go.
So yeah, I agree though with venues. It's challenging because, like, even for myself as the co-founder of a music company, when we go into these live music venues or these cafes or these restaurants, typically they already have a regular flow of
Mhm.
customers that are coming in. So when we come in, we're adding an extra 20 to 30 to 50 people. So
Exactly.
for me, it's difficult because it's like, how do I control other than selling just pre sold online tickets, which is an
Mhm.
option? But the problem with that is it's like, it just makes it much more difficult for us to plan and I know like I said there's the online tickets but then I feel like that'll hinder people from because a lot of people do like to pay at the door, they like to pay cash or
Mhm.
debit.
Mhm.
um so it's really tough, like we don't feel very set in it as of yet of what we're going to do because it's like
Yeah.
we I'm just not sure
Well,
what the
and
best
it's
option
it's
is.
funny because like even when the pandemic hit, like people were like, "What? You're not doing events anymore? Like you guys don't bring more than 50 people." It's like, well, but yeah, but we're still trying to stay safe and all that jazz. So
Yeah.
it's like it's a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a teeter-totter situation. Like you got to try to keep it balanced as much as you can. And
Yeah.
at one point it's like, you got to prioritize the health of everyone around you
Mhm.
from instead of making money.
Yeah.
And like that's just more important. Um but it's, I mean, like it's tough for artists right now. It sucks right now. And
Yeah.
I'm friends with a lot of artists. I'm friends with a lot of musicians, dancers, theater theater folks, and
Mhm.
we're all hurting right now, and it sucks. But that's why, I appreciate the the venue, like the iHeartRadio Music Festival. Like
Mhm.
they're finding ways to
Adapt.
create spaces for performance virtually. And I
Mhm.
think that when it comes to disasters like this, well, I don't want to say, well, I guess it is kind of a disaster. But when it comes to things like this, I think that thinking differently is the only way you're going to come
Mm.
out of this better. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, it's just challenging because obviously this is something we have never experienced before. Musicians have
Mm-hmm.
typically never experienced before, so there will be things that we'll just have to either learn or adapt to. But I think I was listening to a podcast actually yesterday about just dealing with the stress of this virus and like the anxiety it
Mm-hmm.
gives people. But hello, boo boo. You can see her little balloon
If
head
you're listening on Spotify, a dog just walked by behind
with
Millie.
a
So
balloon cone head. So you guys have to see it. Um,
sorry. Anyway,
but yeah,
continue.
they were just saying on the podcast. Look how funny she looks. I'm sorry. How
She
can
looks
you
like
not
she's ready
laugh?
to go on a flight
She's
right
ready
now.
to go on a flight, even though she's not allowed. Sorry, I'm gonna put her
Oh,
back.
poor Lily.
She's like,
She has
leave
a
me
scratch
alone.
on her neck and she's not allowed to scratch it. That's why she's
Yeah,
wearing the thing. But
yeah.
anyway,
So anyhow,
continue.
the podcast was very interesting because it said, like, humans are the most like anxious human beings. Like animals just deal with stuff and they just move on because they're animals, right? But we as humans, we process so much stuff, and we have such a hard time with that, but we are really great at adapting. Like if you think back to 1,000 years, we had to adapt to cavemen had to adapt to certain conditions, weather conditions, and we survive. So we will adapt and we will succeed. But
Mm-hmm.
anyhow, let's move on to our actual. I'm ready to move on to our album review. Are you ready to go?
Yes, yeah.
Cool.
So
Very excited to talk about this
me too. I
today.
it was funny. I posted this on our Instagram and Maddie's son commented, she's like, "It's so good." And like so
Ooh.
people are excited about this album. So like our manager didn't realize, this
Uh,
band is called The Chicks. And if you've never heard of them before, you
you
formerly
have.
knew them as the Dixie Chicks.
Yes.
They're an American pop country group composed of singer Natalie Maines, multi-instrumentalist sisters Marty Irwin McGuire and Emily Strayer. The
Mm-hmm.
band formed in 1989 in Dallas, Texas, and was originally composed of four women performing bluegrass and country music, busking,
Mm-hmm.
touring the bluegrass circuits and small venues, before attracting a major label.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they lost one of their bandmates. Their bandmate left. And the change in their name, or the change in their repertoire, the Chicks achieved commercial success beginning in 1998. So I was 5, with
Mm-hmm.
the hit songs "There's Your Trouble" and "Wide Open Spaces." That's a great song.
Wide open spaces. I had to
Spaces.
pull a Marissa. Sorry, I had to
I
do it.
love it. No, please do it all the time. I love it.
So I found out
Uh,
some information about this album Gaslighter. There's actually a
yeah.
lot, obviously, because this band has been around for so many years. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of really cool things about this album that I was
Mm-hmm.
like even blown away by. I was like, "What?" So
Let's learn.
the Chicks, formerly known as Dixie Chicks, this is their eighth studio album. They released it with Columbia Records, and their producer was Jack Antonoff. Now, I have talked about Jack Antonoff before because he is a producer that commonly works with Taylor Swift and other
Mm.
really famous artists too, like Lana Del Rey. He recently worked on her latest album. Um, but he used to be married to Leah Dunham, if you know her, if you're familiar with her. Um,
Oh, yes.
so
Sorry,
when I
took me a
was
second.
listening to this album, I didn't realize, I was like, that sounds like a Taylor Swift song. That sounds like a Taylor Swift song. But it's just the producer's influences coming through through this music. So it's more of a Jack Antonoff thing, not a Taylor Swift thing, if I'm being honest. But so
Hmm.
this is their first album released in a 14-year time period of a break.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 14 years since we've heard music from them. It's released under their new name, of course, The Chicks, and this album took them 2 years to actually record. So
Ooh,
to
that
jump
gives me hope.
into the tea of this album, in August 2019, our girl Maine, I don't know her first name, but her last name is Maine, like the
Mm-hmm.
main lead singer. I can't,
Ah, ha, ha.
right?
Good pun.
I didn't even try to do that, but she went through a divorce to her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a well-known actor slash voice actor. But he actually asked the court to give him access to all of her unreleased music over concerns it might violate a confidentiality clause in their prenuptial agreement. Although he had previously argued in divorce proceedings that the couple's prenuptial agreement was invalid, claiming that Maine should owe him financial support. Hmm. At
Why?
first, exactly. At first, the band considered recording covers, so I'm assuming covers of their own songs, kind of like a.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know what artists call those, like when you remaster your old tracks, like
Like re-release, I guess.
yeah, like, but there's a word for it, like best hits. Yeah, best hits kind of album is what I was thinking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But then, amidst the divorce, Maines got inspired to write. She says she has a hard time songwriting, which I thought was very interesting because same girl. But because of this divorce, she just was like really inspired and really pissed off. Is if you've listened to the album, you will get that vibe.
Oh yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's what I kind of found out. This album was supposed to be released in March to April, but got postponed due to the coronavirus and was recently released July 17th with 12 tracks. So that's what I found out about the album.
Ooh, yeah.
Heavy.
This album is loaded with
Mm-hmm.
some stuff. And I actually heard the song Gaslighter, like I mentioned before. I heard it like a couple months ago, and I remember thinking, I was like, this is like not what I expected from the Chicks, but I like it was a nice surprise.
Yeah.
Like but also like when I listened to the whole album, I was like, actually no, it makes a lot. This is totally something the Chicks would write. When I think of like Goodbye Earl, I'm like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm,
100%. This
mm-hmm.
is what they would do.
Absolutely.
Um yeah, they've always been kind of like a more forward feminist type
Forward
band,
speaking.
which
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's what I really enjoy about them. Also
Mm-hmm.
considering that they're a country band.
Well, I think
Um
for a long time they were very polite about stuff, and then they just
mhm.
realized like we have this platform, we have this. Why are we not using it to our advantage, right? Or to help others?
Yeah. And that's kind of part of their identity now, and I
Mm-hmm.
love it and I respect it.
Yeah,
Um
absolutely.
so first impressions. What were your first impressions upon listening to this album?
Yeah. So I had slightly listened to Gaslighter before I had put on this album in the past couple months. But my first impressions is I haven't listened to Dixie Chicks in a very long time. I had listened to their oldest album like not too long ago, but definitely not recently, and it was what I expected, if that makes sense. Like when they started singing about the songs they sang and like the songs they sang and the lyrics they had, I was like, yeah, this totally makes sense. But there's a lot of hidden gems in the album that I was like, this is actually a really great song, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad that they released this music. And I think it's really fitting after this many years, and it's hard to come back. Like it's hard to know how to come back, I guess, if you will, after such a
Mm-hmm.
long period. But I think they did a really great job of just being honest and raw about their lives
Mm.
and being like, yep, I'm a celebrity, but this is what's happening in my life, and it sucks.
Yeah. I think my first impressions of this album uh again, like yeah, kind of like what you said, it after listening to it, I was like, this is totally what I was expecting, but in the best way possible. Um, Particularly like just the lyrical content was just felt very empowering to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some of these songs on this album felt just like a warm hug. It was like everything's gonna be okay, and I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
And it was just really comforting for some of these for some of these songs, and I really appreciated it.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody who's watching right now, if you want to click on the album there,
Yeah.
If you want to click on the album there, you can listen to it with us. Wife Material said, I love how this album goes from pop country to more bluegrass vibe. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
100%.
and I actually commented on a little bit of that just because they're the switch, but I just want to chat
Mm-hmm.
about some things that I really enjoyed on this album.
Yeah.
I think the vocals were really, really well balanced on this album.
Obviously. Yes.
March March was a super powerful anthem, and
Mm, great
um,
tune.
it was very structured. Like it was very stereotypical anthem song, but I did really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I love how it was written and arranged on the tracks. I like the drum beats. Oh, that's what. Sorry, I have a mixture of two reviews here in my notes for some reason. The reverb. Nope, that's not what I want to say. What I want to say was this is a really nice blend of country and pop, and this isn't normal. Like normally, it's done very cheesy when you throw country and pop together. It's usually like I think a lot of newer countries turning into this pop country, and it's
Yeah.
hard to
Where
digest
well,
for
where
me.
it's kind of just where it's just kind of like it starts off as just a regular sounding rhythm section, and then they kind of
Yeah.
have mandolin in the background a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it's very heavy in that bluegrass,
Mm-hmm.
like that bluegrass kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Which also, like, funnily enough, there's another band that I listened to a while back, which I've mentioned a couple times before. We used to stream together back in 2018 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, was the band called Nickel Creek. I don't know if you remember them.
Nope.
Nickel Creek. So they're like a bluegrass trio. So Chris Thiele is on mandolin. Sarah and her brother, I forget her brother's name, but the three of them were in this band together, and they kind of chose some heavy topics for their music, but it was still very so they it was still very like heavy in like that kind of bluegrass vibe,
Yeah.
but with also like the crazy, like, or not the crazy lyrics, but just like the heavy lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the vibe that I was getting from this album, with a little bit more of that pop country in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really cool, like mixing the
Yeah. Well,
genres
there
a little
was
bit.
there was definitely still hints of like old Dixie chicks, like the banjo. Like I commented
100%.
on that, like the banjo, the mandolin, and I think they're really good at keeping their kind of original sound while kind of shifting. And I know
Mm-hmm.
recently they kind of came back into the spotlight with being on a Taylor Swift song on one of her latest albums that came out just
Mm-hmm.
last year, almost now. But they sang backups. They did the instrumentation and the main singer. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
She did a lot of. You could hear her very prominent in the vocals, but like they kind of came back before they had released their album through that song. So I thought they did a really good job of kind of and they stay true to who they are as a band. I don't know. I just think every time I hear them, I'm like, they sound like the Dixie Chicks I know and love. And I think when they try
Mm-hmm.
and change, it doesn't make you be like, oh, they're different now. Like, I don't want to listen because they don't sound like what they
Or
used to,
because
right?
they took a word out of their name.
Yeah.
Oh no. Now I'm not going to listen to
Hermanta.
them because that was so important to me before,
Yeah.
not the music.
I know.
Um, so yeah, I completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
Some highlights on this album for me. Funnily enough, I thought Gaslighter was going to be the highlight for me, but actually, funnily enough, it wasn't. For me, Texas Man,
Mm-hmm.
March March,
Mm-hmm.
and Julia Calm Down and Set Me Free were like
Mm.
the highlight moments for me.
Yeah.
I'll get into those a little bit more about why they were my highlights, but
Mm-hmm. Well,
um,
yeah.
yeah.
For things I didn't like, I tried really hard to think of something and I
Hmm.
couldn't. And I did look a little bit online to see, like, okay, what do people that don't like this album as much, like, what are they kind of thinking of?
Hmm.
Um, and what they said is they just, basically, they were like, they're falling too hard on that cheesy pop line. But I disagree because I think that maybe one or two songs, yes, are borderline fairly too cheesy, but for the most
Hmm.
part, I didn't think it was that poorly done at all. And I mean, even like some bad reviews I read, they were like 3.5 out of 5. So it's not like it was like 1 out of 5, right? It was
Hmm.
just. So I had a very hard time thinking things I didn't like. And I think it's because I'm just partially biased because I know this band
Well,
and I've
the other part of it too is
heard
you
them
mentioned they
before.
spent 2 years working on this album. So
Mm
obviously it's going to be a pretty polished
hmm. Mm hmm.
version of an album. And like you can tell that there's a lot of things that went into this.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, particularly for me, there was maybe a couple of songs that I wasn't a fan of, just like the melody, but in terms of like the
Hmm.
actual sound of each song, they were all very well put together.
Yeah.
Like, even if I didn't like the melody, I still appreciate. I was like, yeah, the harmonies are great, or the
Hmm.
drum beat on this song is great, or
Hmm.
that bass in the background just like gives me feelings, even
Yeah.
if I don't like the melody, you know?
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I even on the songs I didn't like, I still liked,
That's a
if
good
that makes
point.
sense.
Yep, because there were certain songs I was like, not a huge fan, but the
Mm-hmm.
way they were done was well done. So I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting the favorite songs that you listed because I kind of, it's not that I didn't like them, but those were just like not as much my favorites. But
Mm-hmm.
I had Gaslighter and Everybody Loves You. I think that one was my ultimate
Ooh, that's a
favorite
good one too. I forgot about that one.
because when I put it on, I was just like, oof, oof. And I can't remember, I didn't write the song down. And this one was borderline cheesy, so maybe that's why I didn't write it down. But the one where she's basically talking about her ex-husband's girlfriend
Oh,
being
is that
like,
Tights on My Boat?
yeah, tights on my boat, and being like, oh my god, and I wrote this down as one of my favorite lyrics, I think. But you can love me like the ex-girlfriend, no, sorry, the ex-husband's girlfriend came to one of her shows, from what it seems like from the story she was telling in the lyrics,
Mm-hmm.
and came up to her and was like, oh my god, I've been such a huge fan, I love your music, I love you so much. And then she, like, I'm assuming she said this, it could be implied that this was like made up, but it sounds like this
Mm-hmm.
is something she would say because she said, you can love me as long as you don't love my man. I was like,
Ooh. Ooh.
woo! But I really love that one because it's just literally her just, and I mean, she probably said it in like a not actual mean way, more of like
Not
a,
in, yeah, not in like a
you
literal way, but that's
know,
probably things that she wanted to say for sure.
yeah. So that was one of my favorite lyrics. And then repeating the mistakes of your father in Gaslighter, I was just like,
That's a
girl,
great line. Yep.
girl, you're
Yep.
speaking 2020. I just think the lyrics are
Yep.
really honest, and you can tell they're writing from their direct experiences, like
Yeah.
having a
Well,
divorce, having kids, having
yeah,
his
and I
ex husband's girlfriend.
yeah, and I think that a lot of women can relate to this album for sure. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's very focused on the
Targeted.
perspective of women for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've all experienced gaslighting in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
In
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to list any examples. I've just, you know
Just
it when you
yeah.
see it.
Just listen to
Um,
our original music when it comes out, and you'll know. You'll know. You'll get a hint.
uh,
Ooh, you'll know. You'll be like, oh, that's where the gaslighter is. Oh, okay, all right. We've all had our fair share of experiences. Men too, not just women. We've all had our experiences. Did you have any favorite lyrics that stood out for you?
um, well, I mean,
Oh,
that one lyric in Gaslighter, 100%. The mistakes of your father was like, that hit me hard.
right? Just like,
Um,
oof.
but there was one, which is kind of funny because if you know me, you know how much I love Gravity by Sarah Bareilles.
Yeah.
So Set Me Free. Um, I'm just, I need to go through all the lyrics here because there's one in particular, but I can't remember exactly how, how
Oh.
it, um, how it goes. But there was one. Okay, hold on. I'm getting the lyrics here right now because I don't want to mess this up. There's one very specific one.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Ah, okay. To have and to hold, oh, the weight of this hate is exhausting. You risk my body, broke my spirit, and still
Mm.
I've let you go. That, like that letting go of that kind of toxic thing in your life. Ooh,
Wow.
hmm. I
That
listened to
sounds like
that.
it was literally directly written, like taking her heart out and been like,
Yes.
you know?
And I mean, it's something that I'm still working on for me particularly of just learning to let go of these things that you're holding on to and letting go of the hate. And that's such a hard thing to do. And it's so
Mm.
addicting to just like sit and be
It's
angry in
easy.
it.
Yeah, it's
It's
easy
easy
to.
to sit and be angry in it, but it's hard. It's harder to let it go. Um, so that line, like I had to, I'm not going to lie. I replayed that song 3 times. I sat down and I replayed the song 3 times. That's how much it meant to me. So
Yeah,
yeah. Uh,
absolutely.
so that was one, that was just one lyric that kind of just hit me right in the heart here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As for vocals and kind of instrumentation, I think if anyone knows the Chicks, they've always had a very pure, very clear, upfront tone. The harmonies are literally, if I know I always talk about harmonies, but the harmonies are always on point with the Dixie Chicks, and that's what they've always been good at.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of, I feel like, what they're known for because they are a trio. It's what they do. They don't just play,
Mm-hmm.
like the other two don't just play music, they also harmonize as well. So they really have that nice three-part harmony a lot of the time. As for instrumentation, I said this before, but the banjo is such a friggin' great instrument, and I just
I
wish I
love
could
the
hear it
banjo,
more
man.
in more music, like more commonly, not just country or bluegrass. I want to hear it like goals. Make it in our pop song. Let's do
We're
it.
putting banjo in our pop
Yeah,
song.
yeah. I don't care what you say. We're putting it in. Burn, burn,
Can you
burn, burn,
imagine?
burn.
We're
How
like turning into
cool would
Mumford
that
and
be?
Sons.
Burn, burn,
Mumford and Sons
burn.
had it going. I don't know why they took out the banjo. Mumford and
I
Sons, you got to
know.
put banjo back into your
Put it
music.
back
That is where
in.
you lived. Anyway, um,
What did you think
so
of vocals and instrumentation?
oh, like vocals 100% were kind of like the main star of this album.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just like when you think of the Chicks, you think of the harmonies.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
no matter what song you're listening to. So obviously that was like a huge thing for me. Um, in terms of the instrumentation, again, like I'm such a huge fan of like that old country sound. So like banjo, mandolin,
Yes.
violin, all that stuff in the background. Um, those ones or just like all of that stuff kind of combined just really brought it home for me. Like it wasn't just a pop country album, it was a pop country album. And I think when people say that they have a problem listening to country music, it's not often to do with the instrumentation
Mm.
or or just like how the singer sounds. It's always to do with like the lyrical content and the stuff behind the
Yes.
music of like how all country music sounds the same. But
It's
this
all
album,
beers and short shorts and
exactly. So
pickup trucks.
and this album is such a nice switch of direction from that. Like it's still a country album, but it has so much more to say.
Yeah.
And that's what I appreciate about it.
Well, how many times did they talk about a farm, a field, country boots?
Yeah.
Never. So,
So
yeah,
like
I agree
if
with
you
what you
don't
said.
like country, if you think you don't like country,
You're
I think you
wrong.
do. I think you do. You just haven't listened to the right country. It's the same thing when people are like,
Our manager, that is for you. That is shouted out to you. Listen to country.
um, yeah, exactly. And what I was gonna say was it's the same thing when people say like there's no good music nowadays. It's like
Mm-hmm.
yes there is. You just have to find the little bands, the little artists here and there that you can kind of grab onto. And I think this is more of a mainstream band for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to start with the mainstream, head to this album because this is like a great country album.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's chat about the album artwork.
Mm,
So this is pretty dope. Like it's
not subtle at
yeah,
all.
it's like a fairly straightforward picture, and it explains kind of the picture perfect. This like my interpretation is it explains picture perfect view that people
Hmm.
have as expectations for themselves or that others expect from women or even celebrities. That it's
Hmm.
this very like perfect ness all the time and that they have to be like I don't know what they're supposed to be but it looks like they're supposed to be like contestants in some kind of like
Yeah, well, it looks
you
like
know
they're either beauty contestants or they're Irish dancers. I think yeah, I'm just looking up the
like
actual
baton
like
dancers. That's
yeah,
what
I'm
they
not
kind of look
entirely
like,
sure.
cheerleaders.
I just want to look up the actual I'm looking up the actual artwork here because I want to know exactly what the artwork is about. Um, but it doesn't say anything. It's really frustrating. But basically, when I was looking at it, I was like, yeah, it's not subtle at all.
Yeah.
I like that it says it a million times over
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes that's what it takes to get somebody to really
Mm-hmm.
understand
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I think that it wasn't what I was expecting the album cover to be, but I
No.
kind of dig it,
Mm-hmm. What do
you
you think
know?
of like the color choices? What do you think? Like Gaslighter, I imagine like red or like.
Yeah.
So what do you think that kind of?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I don't
I
know either.
like I mean like one of the things that kind of was hard for me to look at was just when I was putting together like our Instagram post where I was like trying to like edit
Yeah,
the
I
text over
saw
top
that.
and I was like, ah,
It's
it was just a
difficult.
lot. Like it's a lot going on and it's kind of very in your face. But when I think about the album, I'm like, well, the album is also very in your face, so it makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, pink's not my favorite color, so I'm not gonna say anything to that. But um,
Maybe it's just the feminine energy, because
yeah, maybe that's what part of it is.
yeah,
I
hard to
really
say.
want to know what the album artwork is, though. I need to know. Tell me, Google. Google, tell me what
Tell
it
me
is.
why.
Ain't nothing but a okay. Whoops. Sorry.
Ah,
Okay, sorry. There's an Instagram video. Oh, nope, nope. Okay. Um, Gaslighter album is bold and bright. Three Irish dancers. Okay, I knew it. Three Irish dancers stand side
Irish.
by side. On the cover, their image covered with the chick's name, the album's title in neon and pink, respectively. An updated version of the cover does indeed reflect the trio's name. Okay, and that's all we got. So
Okay,
they're Irish dancers. Um,
so that doesn't really help
so
my
yeah, I don't know what
interpretation.
that has to do with being a gaslighter.
Okay,
So, like, because I don't know very much about Irish dancing, so maybe there's something there.
something more
Um,
we don't know.
I don't, for the life of me, I can't. All it is just reviews of the album. I'm like, tell me about the artwork.
Yeah, I
But
honestly tried to find it, but yeah,
yeah, so there you go, Irish dancers.
pretty cool. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about this, and this kind of has to do with the album artwork a little bit too,
Hmm.
but the colors that you kind of saw with this album when you were listening. And this is interesting actually because the colors that I saw is I said bright pink without thinking of the cover, the
Mm.
album cover. I thought bright pink and bold red.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't. This is one album that I actually didn't get any colors. Um,
Hmm,
I didn't think of any
that is
particular
interesting.
color. Just, I think for me, it was because there's so much variety in every single song that I couldn't pinpoint it to one thing.
Yeah.
So I was kind of getting a variety of different things, like almost like a rainbow type
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Okay.
Because I felt like each song had a different color to me. But I
Mm,
didn't picture a particular one. So I kind of imagine it going through like the rainbow spectrum, this
yeah,
album.
a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said bright red and bright pink because, like bold red, because the song, like March March, for example, the song
Hmm.
Gaslighter, it's very in your face, very direct. And again, the
Oh,
feminine energy I was digging. So, um,
sorry. I've got March March on in my headphones right now, and I'm like,
hell
oh,
yeah.
yes.
So good. Who would you recommend this album to if you were to pass it along?
Ooh. Uh, my girls. Um, if anybody is into feminism, or if you are a feminist, which pretty much everybody is,
Hmm.
um, I think that you'll enjoy this album. I
Mm-hmm.
think that if you like that kind of old country sound on top of pop country sound, I think you'll be great.
Yeah.
I would recommend this album to someone like Olivia Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, you'd like this album. Or just any country artist, I think that they would enjoy it. Any lovers of country,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I said when with a group of girlfriends for sure, like if you're hanging out with them and you're just like in the
Hmm.
mood.
Oh, yeah.
Um, if you need to pick me up, honestly, this album would do a great job of doing that. And if you're just
Hmm.
out on a drive, just listening, blasting it, windows down, countryside
Oh, yeah.
road, Alberta farms.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Driving down like rural
Uh,
Alberta, like you're driving down to like two hills and you're like,
Gaslighter.
Gaslighter. Yeah. I love it.
I'm kidding. I really don't live that close to country farm fields, but it felt right.
Yeah,
Uh,
I drive down those roads more than I'd care to admit, but
yeah.
I as much as I try to resist it, I got a little bit of Berta in me.
You can't not.
Yeah.
What's your conclusion for this album?
I think it's a really well put together album.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that it has a ton of variety, so you can find. I think everybody can find something that they like about this album.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of things for everybody. If you're into instrumentation, if you're into the country sound, if you're into pop sound, if you're into the lyrical content, if you're
Yeah.
a feminist, if you're into like really tight harmonies, in your face vocals, I think that there's
Mm-hmm.
just a lot to take away from this album. And if you don't like the whole album, I bet you'll find at least one song that you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
This album for me, it's full of emotions and there's so much to the lyrics that it takes a bit to process. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you really have to kind of digest what's being said to you, and it's not in a bad way. It's just very interesting to listen to an album like this, because some albums have a lot of context, some of them have very little context. It just depends
Mm-hmm.
on the artist. But this album is really humbling in that even celebrities can face things like divorce or a really crappy, um, significant other or a relationship with anybody. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really matter who it is.
Yeah.
But this album I think it's a really interesting blend of music between music and politics for sure. And I know that like before this album, they had released that one album with that one song that was
Totally know what
dedicated
you're talking
to,
about.
what the hell was that song called? But anyways, it got the Dixie Chicks at the time, which was their name. What is it called? Not Ready to Make Nice. That's what it's called. But
That
it got
one.
them
Right.
into a lot of, at the time, like people weren't as vocal as they are now in 2020 and very like
Mm-hmm.
straightforward things. So it did get them into a lot of trouble. I think it really did set them back. So yeah, that's kind of my conclusion, and I give this a letter grade of A plus.
I also give it an A plus.
Yay!
Yay!
We've been on game today. I think we've had matching reviews all week, matching grade levels.
Killing it. If we get the same reviews all week, we get bingo.
Yes,
What do we win if we get bingo? We get bingo.
we get to go play it. All right, everyone. My name is Millie Rouge. Thank you for tuning in today for our news and album review of The Chicks Gaslighter.
My name is Marissa Kay. If you like this video, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button to be notified when these videos come out. We are live on Twitch every single morning, Mondays, 9 a.m., Tuesdays through Friday, 10 a.m., and we post these to YouTube later. If you want to check this out on Spotify, it's under Vienna Whyte Podcast. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.